Well, hello, everybody. I'm Tim Wallace with the Connect team at Northaven Church. And we are doing interviews from Northaven Voices. And today I get to speak with Mike and Janine Mason. So tell us about yourselves. Introduce yourself. Tell us what you do and about you.
Me first. I'm Janine, and I'm a hairstylist. I have two kids from a previous marriage, and we've been married for 11 years. 11 years.
Hi, I'm Mike Mason. I grew up in Arkansas, went to the University of Arkansas, moved to Texas 33 plus years ago, and I've been working for Texas Instruments ever since. So lifelong Methodist.
That's cool. That's something we have in common because I grew up in Arkansas as well.
Yeah.
So we have some things to talk about. Tell me about maybe what is the happiest moment you have in your life that you remember, that you really were really happy?
Sounds corny, but probably the day I married Janine. I mean, it really was. It was
good answer. Good answer.
It is. It was the second marriage for both, and we didn't want a big fancy wedding, but we just basically had a party. I mean, it was on a lake and it was out of town. So I didn't think that many people would come, and everybody came. So it was like our assembled friends and family from our whole lives showed up for this thing and got married in an outdoor wedding, and all of our friends were there. It was just so cool. So
it was. And I would say that's probably my happiest moment too.
Wow, that sounds just like you from what I know about you, at a lake and outdoors and everything. That sounds a lot like you. So I'm going to kind of veer off here and ask you, tell us about your hobbies, because I know you guys are pretty active people.
Well, we love outdoors. So most everything that we do is outdoors. We love to kayak, and I love to work in the yard and just to be outside.
Yeah, I would say the same answer. I mean, people often say, well, will you have enough to do when you retire? And I'm like, I've got too many hobbies. I really don't think that's going to be a problem. Love to be outdoors. I grew up in the Ozarks, like I mentioned, in Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas. So hunting, fishing, hiking, kayaking, cycling. I love sports, playing them and watching them. Photography is another big interest of mine. We love to go watch music, concerts. So we have a lot of hobbies.
Well, Janine, he was pretty active in outdoors as a child. Were you as well?
Yeah. Yes. I grew up in the same neighborhood we live in now, and there's woods and a creek, and I spent most of my time back in those woods and in the creek.
And a lot of time in Montana in the summer.
That's true. Yeah.
What are you guys most grateful for?
Him. Family.
Another corny answer, but yeah, family. Family is very important to both of us, and like I said, I think we have a greater appreciation, it being our second marriage for both of us, and we know what we have, and we're very thankful for.
Yes.
Wow. That's great. It's a great place to be, to know what you're grateful for, what really pulls you guys together. And from what I've experienced of you, you're a very strong couple, and I really admire that in you too.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So what are your passions? What are you really excited about, and what gets you going?
Well, okay, I've mentioned all the outdoor stuff, and a lot of that is that I like to play golf. It gets me excited. Music is a big passion. I mean, most people know that for several years now, of course not any longer, but there's been a big music cruise called Kayamo. So it's basically a week-long music festival at sea, and just going to concerts all day long every day, and that's just nirvana for me. So
yeah, I agree.
That's a passion. And
it's a cruise. That's a cruise that you go on?
Yeah, probably never again. But yeah, for several times, a week long, and literally the concert started like 11 a.m. and go past midnight. And there's 3, 4, 5 stages going at the same time. And it's like a big outdoor music festival, except you have your own, room and restroom. So that's much nicer.
Yeah. And luckily we like the same kind of music. So
yeah, that's true. And it's mostly singer-songwriter, Americana, I guess they call it now, but we kind of both gravitate toward that. John Prine's my all-time favorite, and we lost him earlier this year, but John Hyatt, Steve Earle, Jason Isbell, on and on and on. So
that's great. That's great. How do you guys want to be remembered? What legacy do you want to leave behind?
I just want people to remember me as being a very caring, compassionate person, I think. Always trying to do the best I can and be the best I can to everyone. That's, I would say.
I would agree. A good guy, I guess. Honest, straightforward, pragmatic. Don't try to hurt anybody ever. I've had career discussions at work. It's like, well, what are your aspirations? What are your goals? And it's like, I've never said, well, I want to be a VP of this and that. It's like, I just want to do a good job and be seen as a good, competent person and do my best every day. And I'm not that ambitious, I guess.
Well, how did you get into your job, Mike? What exactly do you do, and how did you get to there?
There's many levels to this, I guess. Well, okay, so my bachelor's is in electrical engineering. And I got into that basically because I was good at math and science in high school. It's like, well, you should be an engineer. And I said, okay. So went to University of Arkansas, which was pretty much predestined since I was an Arkansas native and fan my whole life. But got my engineering degree, and there's a bunch of on-campus interviews, and I got a handful of job offers, and I wanted to come live in the big city. I wanted to see what Dallas was all about. And so I started at TI and never intended to stay for 33 years, but here I am. Most of my career, I was a project manager for new integrated circuit development. So developing new chips and working with customers and working schedules and all that kind of stuff. About 8 years ago, I made a big career switch within the company, and I do trade compliance, which is import, export. So totally different. I also got an MBA somewhere along the way, so maybe that helps. But I'm now a licensed customs broker, and which is totally different. And all of the stuff you hear in the news about the tariffs on China goods and all that is 100% on me. So I have a much closer relationship with TI senior management than I would like to have. See my earlier comments.
I guess there was a bit of a learning curve there when all these tariffs came up, right?
Very much so. Yeah. It's been interesting.
And headaches and.
Yeah. And then I had to study for that customs broker's license, so that was not very fun to be around for about 4 or 5 months there, but we made it. So.
It's kind of a challenge to go back to school as an adult.
Yeah, it is. At almost 50, and yeah, it was different.
Yeah, I don't think I could have done that, but I'm glad he did.
Good. And I always need that support, when
That's
you
right.
have that. That's right. So, Janine, how did you get into being a hairdresser? Did you always want to do that, or?
No, I didn't. I went to college for 2 years. I was a dance major, actually, for, ballet, tap, jazz. And I got in a car wreck that messed up my knees when I was a freshman in college. And after that, I just thought, I can't do this forever. And I had knee problems before anyway. So I was trying to decide what I wanted to do and changed my major twice the next year and just couldn't figure it out. And then I was like, everybody was like, you're so good, because I did everybody's hair in college. So they're like, you ought to do that. And I'm so glad I did. I went to cosmetology school and never looked back. It's made me very happy for 30 some years.
Wow, great for you. So you work for yourself, or do you work for a big salon? How do you do that?
I work for myself, and I've been in a salon, just a little neighborhood salon where I just rent a space for the past 7 years. And before that, I was at a place where you have your own room and just rent, the room. And there's a bunch of hairstylists in the whole salon. But that closed, so I went to this little neighborhood salon, and I'm so glad I did, because I'm 5 minutes from home, and I love the people I work with, and it's just a nice little family.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Have you seen any major changes in the industry other than earlier this year with the pandemic? What have you seen any big changes or shifts in the industry?
Well, when I first started doing hair, nobody worked for themselves. You worked for a salon, and like 2 or 3 years after I got in the business, they started doing independent contractors license, and everybody switched over to that. So that really closed down a lot of the smaller salons, and the bigger ones made it just kind of sad to see the little neighborhood salons didn't go over, but they're kind of getting back to that again. So I'm glad.
That's good. You prefer to being self-employed?
Yeah. I like picking my own hours and picking my own clients, and
yes. There's a lot of freedom in that, and it feels good for me. I do that too as well.
Yeah.
So I know that you guys are active with the spiritual journey class. No, not spiritual journey, but J3. And for those who don't know, that's Jesus, Java, and the Journey. It started, about 10 years ago at the church, and still going strong. But talk about your actual faith journey, if you will, up to now.
Okay.
You go first?
I'll go first. I was born and raised Catholic, and I later in the years I had kind of questioned some of the Catholic ways, but that was who I was, and that was our family always went to church together. We were very family oriented in doing all the church activities and everything. But once Mike and I got married, just so that we could go to the same church, because I didn't completely agree with all of the Catholic ways, I decided to switch over, and we tried to find a church that we both were happy with.
Yeah, so I'm a lifelong Methodist. Grew up in a very small little country church in Arkansas, so quite a bit different than my current Methodist church, but still Methodist, still united, right? It's kind of interesting. So after Janine made the change, which I very much appreciate, and I know that was not easy, and I'll always appreciate that, but then it's time to find a church, right? And we live in Northeast Dallas on the east side of White Rock Lake. And we started visiting nearby Methodist churches, and it just wasn't working. Nothing felt right. And I always had Northaven as kind of my ace in the hole, because I knew of Eric. I first heard of Eric. This is a pretty good story. I don't know if you remember this, but when the Mavs lost to the Heat in the 2006 finals, he wrote one of his blog posts about all the horrible calls the Mavs got and how the officials were catering to Dwayne Wade. And I thought, man, this guy can write. And then we actually went to a few Connections concerts before we ever started attending Northaven. So I felt like I had some handle on Eric, and we visited, and pretty immediately started going to J3 and found family there, basically, that were, the cast has changed somewhat over the years, but it's still family. We really, J3 is what binds us to the church, honestly. We really
Definitely.
do. We really do. So, yeah, pretty much Eric, but that's not the reason. I mean, we love Eric. That's not the whole reason we stayed. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. What do you see in the future for Northaven? What do you want to get out of Northaven in the future? Besides getting back in person.
Yeah,
That would be nice.
that would be nice.
I think we're on the right track. I think a lot of the social justice, that's our DNA, right? And trying to get the word out more, right? We've always been, I guess, a niche church. You know, we're not a neighborhood church. People come from all over everywhere because they kind of line up ideologically with what Northaven stands for. I think there are more people closer to the church who also line up with that, and I think we've seen a few join in the last few months, last year. So more of that, and just you know, it'd be nice to get some more young families in and things like that. And I think that's possible and that's out there for us. So that's my answer.
I agree.
What he said.
Yeah.
That's right.
Any parting words you'd like to have to let the people know anything else new about you, or something that we don't know about you, or something funny about you?
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I don't know. I mean, like I said, we love to camp and kayak, and if we're missing from church, we're probably traveling. So
Yeah, traveling is our goal.
At least in the old days. We're not traveling so much now, but we do love to travel. I know several people at church share that passion. So
Yeah.
That's true. Well, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to visit with me, and I really do look forward to the time where we can get back in person, because I know y'all sit here and I sit here.
That's right.
We're just always close to each other when we
Yeah.
have in-person worship, and I really look forward to doing that again. So again, thank you so much for visiting with me, and y'all have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to it.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Bye.